Succession. You may remember we talked about that on a podcast when Gary was on the show, and we all sort of like...
Who?
I know, I don't know either. We all sort of liked that opening episode where Brian Cox's character Logan Roy, the head of this multimedia, you know, I can't think of their name now. What's the name of that family that is sort of based upon, roughly? People.
The Murdochs.
Murdoch family, yeah. Sort of the head, Logan Roy, has a stroke, and the family business is sort of thrown into chaos, and all the kids are trying to find where they fit and find who's going to succeed. We all sort of liked that first episode. There's a lot in it to like, and it's written and created by Jesse Armstrong of Peep Show and Fresh Meat and all that. And then I decided just to keep going, and Matt and Gary fell off. And then season 2 was coming, and I rewatched series 1 and got really into it again. And then Matt all of a sudden had binged the whole thing.
It was something I had meant to watch, because it was something in the back of my mind that I did enjoy that first episode of. And there was a lot of people, including yourself, who were sort of lauding it. And it was something actually that was discussed by a couple of people at the Edinburgh TV Festival. Most notably, head of Channel 5, Ben Fro, who said, "I'm effing Logan," when asked which character he was. He said, I'm the old guy trying to, like, you know, get all the young sort of tech savvy people off my back and keep control. But yeah, no, I had all, because, you know, I'm a big Jesse Armstrong fan, and I like the cast. You know, I like Kieran Culkin and Matthew McFadden, people like that. I felt it first it would all be a bit sort of backstabby and things like that, but I think in that first season they do a good job of making you sympathise with certainly the 3 Roy children and their sort of situations and things like that.
Yeah, I love Roman, Shiv, and Kendall. And don't forget the elder one. What's his name? I can never remember his name.
I know it's Alan Rook.
That doesn't help me here, but I know. Yeah.
Cameron. Connor.
Yes,
Connor.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, again, they're quite long episodes, as Euphoria was. Did you find it easy? Did you think they were over long, or did you manage? Because to watch, isn't it 10 the first series, and you're pretty much up to date with the first 2 that have gone out.
Yeah, I've watched the first 2. Yeah.
It must have been easy to do, because you're not a big binger most of the time, are you?
I found myself becoming a binger now.
I've noticed that
over the summer.
The American critics are loving it, but a lot of them in the early days of Series 1 were saying, I can't get on board with it because everybody's just disgusting and I don't like anybody. And I can completely see that argument, and I have said it on the podcast about other shows, but the dialogue is so quick and biting, and you never know what's going to happen. And the final couple of episodes of Series 1 went in a direction that I could have never foreseen. And Series 2, the 2 that I've seen, I mean, I've watched that second episode from last week twice now, because there's so much in. There's so much in an episode of Succession that you miss.
Can I just sort of riff on something quickly? Again, it was something that was brought up at the Edinburgh TV Festival, but might explain the sort of thoughts, especially the US TV critics' sort of criticisms of Succession would be maybe that it's from Jesse Armstrong, who started in British comedy writing, and it's brought up during the session with Paul Feig at Edinburgh that in the UK a lot of our comedies have unlikable protagonists. Something that the American comedies don't certainly the classic comedies, because they don't like this, and it's a sort of a turn off. And I think Succession has that sort of comedic element to it. If you think back to Mark and Jez in Peep Show, they're both horrible characters, and I think there is a lot of, I would say, Mark in Tom, Matthew McFadden's character.
I think he steals the show. I think he's amazing, and I've never liked Matthew McFadden in anything else, but I think he's amazing in this. Because
he's playing against type, because normally he would be the slick, suave, sort of man about town, posh man about town. Here he's this sort of, I've come into this world of wealth and I'm going to sort of enjoy all of it and make the most of it. I love his partnership with cousin Greg.
Love that. You don't have principles.
but those two together, sort of the comic sort of foils of the series, aren't they? Really, but
yeah.
I
would be watching episode 3 now if we weren't doing this.
But no, I think it is the sort of comedic element to it, the new, sort of new slant to this story. Without it, sort of you have that dramatic sort of family tension, very almost Shakespearean. You know, in the 3 children or 4 children, 3 who are sort of wanted to take the business, really, aren't they? There's Alan Ruck's character, who is from the first marriage of Logan and is very much the black sheep, isn't he? He sort of, till very recently lives on a farm in New Mexico, doesn't do anything, has a relationship with the cool girl that he wants to make exclusive, but he still likes to sort of sabotage things for his siblings.
Yes.
So there's still that sort of Shakespearean element to it, and I suppose this second season, if we're talking more about that, because that's where we are now, is seeing that Siobhan, the daughter, is sort of being groomed to take over. She's the one that sort of almost is the apple of her father's eye. He identifies that she is very much the cleverest of his children.
But I can't work out if it's all a ploy and if he's going to double cross her, and I don't feel comfortable completely.
Because she was the one who wasn't the 2 sons, Roman and Kendall, were working in the family business, whereas Shiv was working as like a consultant to various politicians, one of whom was very anti her father, who runs this sort of media conglomerate, very much a sort of, as you say, like a Fox-esque thing with a Fox News-esque subsidiary. But they also run theme parks, which always seemed a bit odd.
I love that though at the theme park.
But this seems to be the overarching thing of this season, that Shiv is being groomed for this in the long haul. Tom, her husband, also works for the company, and he has been sort of moved to the media section from the park section, which he is very pleased about. There's also this sort of redemption arc for Kendall, who sort of lost his position as CEO, relapsed into a drug addiction and ended up sort of being involved in a death at the end of the last season.
The dinner scene between where Roman invites Shiv and Tom over for dinner was just so cringeworthy and awful, but brilliant and equal.
Because Roman's new squeeze is the prostitute who gave Tom a blowjob on his bachelor party, and that's something that's obviously going to come out, isn't it?
Yeah, can't wait for that to be. I won't say anything else than that. Just can't wait for that to.
Because there was a thing where he was like, "I've got a bit of a cold," and she said, "Maybe you should swallow something."
Yeah. Oh, it's so. Let's finish now. I don't know what it's so good. It's a show that
it is a show that everyone should. I can't think of anyone who wouldn't get something out of this. I can understand the criticism, that some people had, that there was unlikable characters. It is almost like a sort of blackly comic version of Arrested Development as well. There's elements of that, isn't there?
I mean, third series of this announced the day after the first episode started. I'm not worried particularly. I mean, I don't know where series 2 is going to go. There's 10 of them in total, and there's going to be 10 again next year. HBO seems to be a bit on fire with this Euphoria, Big Little Lies, and stuff they've got coming up. So I'm not worried about it keeping going. Another US show, that keeps going back worries me, but not this one.
And it won the BAFTA this year as well, didn't it, for international?
I'd forgotten that. Yeah.
Which was not odd, but a sort of. It's not something that was ever really sort of promoted by Sky, not really, that I could see.
They are giving it the Game of Thrones 2 in the morning simulcast treatment now. HBO and Sky Atlantic Succession, it's got the old Game of Thrones treatment in the UK, getting the 2 a.m. slot if you're desperate to see it, or 9 p.m. on Monday night. It is the show about the Roy family, the sort of take on the Murdochs. We're now 3 episodes away from the end of the season, and we did talk about it briefly not that long ago when we said I don't know who wouldn't like it. Every episode of this seems to top itself. I don't quite know how they do it. It's quite astonishing. I just adore this show, and I wish more people. There are a group of Successionites that I can talk to after each episode comes off out online, but it's not got this sort of big appeal that a lot of the bigger HBO shows have. But it's an absolute gem, and this week nearly broke me. Actually, it was as funny as it was disturbing and heartbreaking, and I thought it was brilliant. And I loved the trip in the little services in the UK when they're trying to work out what to buy.
I had a Scotch egg last time.
It's just a joy, and to think it's mainly from UK writers and created by Jesse Armstrong of Fresh Meat and Peep Show. Let's talk about last week's, because last week's was the one where Logan invites or tells Kendall that he's got to accompany him on a trip to sort of confront the boys' family.
Well, they all go to the UK, don't they? Because the thing is that they're trying to retain shareholders, and they're going to the UK for two of the shareholders, one of which is the mother to Kendall, Shiv, and Roman, played by Harriet Walter. While they're in the UK, a story comes out in the newspaper about the lad who died in the last season, the last episode, that the parents are accusing Logan of sort of bullying him into his own death. So he goes to see the parents, and Kendall he asks him to join him, and Kendall was implicit in that death.
What I liked it, there's so much to like about it. The fact that Kendall feels tremendous guilt about what has happened to this person and is really struggling to come to terms with it, and has really changed him as a person. B, I just like the fact that this family live the complete opposite end of the spectrum to the Roys, this sort of grey facade house that he has to go into. And it's one of the funniest shows on television, but it was also one of the deepest. Jeremy Strong, who I hadn't known previous to this, is just outstanding. I've never seen a performance like it. The things he can do with his face, and he doesn't have many lines of dialogue, but they're really sort of moving.
I know we're always mentioning the acting and the writing, but the direction as well and the cinematography in Succession is just astounding. You know, they do a lot of the comic moments come from the sort of the lingering on the facial expressions, which is a trope of Jesse Armstrong's work, for, you know, especially in Peep Show. But here as well, you know, you follow, these are silent scenes, because you see Logan go in to talk to the parents, and Kendall sort of just wandering through the house, sees these sort of pictures of this boy who died, then just sort of lurks in the kitchen, and this, you know, because he's still, well, he's a recovering drug addict who's still taking drugs. So I don't know how well the recovery is going, but his performance is slightly different to that in the first series, where he's sort of this manic energy to him. You know, this experience at the end of season 1 has changed him, and Jeremy Strong portrays that awfully well. If you look at the Kendall of the first episode and compare him to now, you know,
he was just really cocksure and overconfident.
Whereas Roman doesn't seem to have changed very much. Shiv has almost gone like the other way, since Logan has said, you know, you're going to take over. I mean, I think the writing to this, it very much feels like a Shakespeare play, because you've got the, you know, the family dynamic, you know, it equated most to King Lear, you know, trying to divide the kingdom between the children. But you've also got, which Shakespeare had, these sort of comic sort of interludes, these sort of comic characters, the buffoons here, who are Cousin Greg and Tom, for me, who are the sort of...
Their scenes this week were...
In the episode where he's sort of got these confidential documents where he's put sort of top secret on or something, and he sent them in, and he's down that, you know, he's trying to record him, isn't he, going, yes, we are destroying these.
Yes, there it goes. There goes the things we are destroying up in flames. Yeah, it's very...
And you need that sort of comic interlude and things like that, don't you? Because you've got the corporate structure, the game playing here. You know, Holly Hunter's come on board as this sort of ruthless executive who's just lost her job and is screwing shit, and is almost sort of making a play for, like a romantic play for Logan, isn't she? She's trying to seduce him in a way.
It's all so blooming good, and I can't believe it.
I'm guessing it's going to build up to the shareholders meeting is going to be the final episode.
Because that episode in series 1 where Kendall was running late for that big meeting, that was always
to overthrow him, wasn't it? And that was sort of like, you know, Roman sort of betrayed him almost, didn't he? He's the weaker one in a way. And I'm a bit weirded out by the stuff with Roman and Jerry. That feels very Peep Show-esque. That does.
Yeah. But also the thing where Roman was sort of hit by Logan was very interesting, and the sort of way they dealt with that, the awkward conversation in the back of a taxi when did I make contact with your face? It's not what I do, and Roman not really wanting to talk about it at all. It's a very interesting family dynamic that we don't see very often on TV, and I think Sarah Snook and Matthew McFadden are fantastic. When they're together,
they're all fantastic. I don't think there's a weak link in this.
There isn't. No, there isn't. We can't praise it enough. You can catch up with it on Now TV and Sky Atlantic. There are 3 more to go, and I will be absolutely bereft when.
And I'm guessing there's a season 3 on the way.
Yes, they've already announced season 3.
Good.
Yeah. Monday nights on Sky Atlantic, or 2 a.m. on Monday morning if you want to watch it then.
Do you want to quickly talk about the final episode of Succession?
Yeah, let's end on something that I adored. So the final episode of Succession had a lot going for it, had a lot to finish up in the second season, which is just, in my opinion at least, topped itself with every episode. You see, you don't go in with any preconceptions. When you're watching something that you like this, you must think, oh, I hope this is a good one, or I expect this to be a good one, or do you not even do that?
Well, I think everything I go into I want to be good, unless it's something like The Wall.
I think you secretly like The Wall, because you've mentioned it a lot in this last hour.
Well, it's Saturday night, tell you, it's better.
Come on, Wall.
So, you little twinkle, or whatever he says. Was it episode 8, I think I said to you, that I wasn't a massive fan of? It felt like a bit of a bridge builder.
Yeah.
And then obviously we had the episode with the trial. The deposition. And then this final one was very sort of, they have all the main characters on a boat in the middle of Venice. All contained, deciding who it is going to be, who's going to take the hit for this controversy in the cruises division, which has sort of been a bubbling plot since the first couple of episodes, really, hasn't it? And it was one of those where you felt you knew where it was going, but I hoped that there would be a twist, because it did feel like they were going to build it up to Kendall being the one who was going to take the hit, and he was sort of ready to be the one that took the blame for it. And you saw that in the deposition episode as well, that Logan threw it onto Kendall to say, my son was in charge, here's his explanation for things, and you saw him, Logan's almost like caring side saying, I don't want you to be effed up on drugs and things like that. And there was a nice little bit with Shiv and Tom where Shiv said, I feel
like you're trying to turn our threesome into a twosome.
But the bit where Shiv said to spare him, not to get rid of him, or the Tom Sunday with Greg Sprinkles. I felt when they were going towards press conference, I thought, this is it. He is going to actually turn the tide. And interestingly as well, with Greg still having the documents with him, him being the Machiavellian F that Tom said so many episodes ago. Because we see him as this sort of foolish figure, but he has got this sort of cleverness to him. Although the plot with the biographer never really went anywhere, did it? That sort of
that sort of fizzled out, didn't it?
But again, that's the brilliance of Succession, that it's probably not been forgotten about, and it's still going to it rear its ugly head at some point. Kendall also seems to have forgotten completely that he's got a family in this series.
I don't know where they are. They're just off somewhere.
But no, that final episode with the sort of, I have got this proof that, my dad was fully aware of what was happening, and I felt that was brilliantly done. And it is such a well written, such a well acted show, and I feel like we're saying that all the time, but it's true.
It is. It is. It is true. And it's also the fact that people were it had finished seconds ago, and people were going, when Series 3? Do you think he did that? Do you think Logan knew he was going to do that when he said he wasn't a killer? Do you think Logan was, proud of him in a weird way?
Well, there was that the smile on his face, sort of, wasn't there?
Was sort of, you go and get him, I raised you this way, to sort of every man for himself kind of attitude. It is brilliant. It is, for me, the show of the year so far. Succession is all there on Now TV and Sky Boxers. Just so many little lines that I'll always quote as well. I really felt a proper sympathy towards Tom and towards Shiv.
Yeah.
When they had their little scene on the beach where they sort of talk about separating, and Succession makes me feel a lot of things, but empathy.
I thought
for them,
they might decide to have a kid or something by the end of this episode.
Yeah, I wondered that too for a moment. I thought it was just all really well done, and it's so brilliantly acted. And I thought the change in Kieran Culkin's character Roman, he sort of changed due to the awful events that happened to him in the penultimate episode. And I thought his toned down version of himself was very interesting. They're just so layered, and they feel so... They don't feel like real people, because I've never met anyone like them, but they feel so true to who they're supposed to be.
Have you seen the interview that Brian Cox did on, I think it was Colbert? Have you seen this?
I don't think I've seen his interview, no.
Where he said he was sitting in a cafe and...
No, I did see it, yes.
Yeah, and someone came up to him and said, I really like the series, and he said, thank you. He says, can you tell me, does she get a happy ending? And he says, who? It's like, oh no, didn't he say my wife's in it? And he says, who's your wife? Elizabeth Murdoch.
Yeah, no, I remember that, yes. We've banged on about it, the internet's gone crazy about it. If for some reason you've never seen it...
There's quite a lot of people who haven't.
Oh, there's more people that haven't than have at this point.